Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Personal Growth Hour. Personal Growth Hour is a time for you to listen to others' stories. Take those stories in and figure out how you can use other people's stories to help you grow and become a successful person. We have a special guest with us today, Jason Corning.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me here today.
We're very glad you could be here. We also have our interpreters, Mary and Keith, whose voices you'll be hearing. So hello, Jason. I'm very excited that you could be here today with us. Could you please tell us a little bit more about who you are, yourself as a person, and describe yourself for us?
Sure. I'm Jason, and I've been married for 7 years. My husband is Taiwanese. He is hearing and sighted. I grew up in Wisconsin, but there's no deafness or blindness in my family. So I'm the only one with that for now. And let's see, kindergarten all the way through, what was it, 2000 when I left from the blind school. I remember, Scott, I remember you as a dorm supervisor over there at the Wisconsin School for the Deaf when I attended in Wisconsin School for the Deaf before going to the blind school. And after graduating from the blind school, I did graduate from UW Whitewater in 2009 and then moved to Maryland. When I was in Maryland, I worked for the federal government for several years as a project manager in different capacities and areas, but I experienced frustration, challenges, roadblocks, and I left that to start my own business and also work for Towson University here in Maryland. But before I started my business, I was able to get a grant while working for the federal government to go back to school for a master's degree. So now I have 2 degrees. One's related to technology and the other one's to business. So I identify myself as a deafblind person and a gay man.
You were just talking about your husband and you used this sign to describe your husband. Could you tell us a little bit more about that sign?
Oh, yes, that's sighted. People may say, oh, he's not blind or something like that. You know how we label each other in that way, like someone in deaf culture is hearing or deaf, same way for sighted or not sighted.
That makes complete sense when you think about it in relation to the deaf community. Good to know that this is the sign for that. Thank you. You had mentioned owning a business, and my understanding is you own a company called 3MC, Three Monkeys Communication. Could you tell us a little bit more about that business?
Yes, so 3MC was founded in 2017. And right before I had set up the business, I was going through quite a state. I was going through a depression, just trying to figure out where I was going with my life. And at one point, I was talking with my husband. We were talking about, those statues you often see with the see no, hear no, speak no evil. That really lit a light bulb for me in setting up a business. So that's really what we wanted to set up something where we could see, feel, and hear. So we can set it up so that if you can't see, how do we make it visual? And different approaches for us to do just that. So we've created an app. We've invited the community to participate. We provide consultations, mentoring, and training. And so really it's about breaking down communication barriers. And so our app was launched just a few weeks ago, actually. And so we're getting people signed up, getting through all of those, any of the kinks that are needed in that. And so anyone can really use it, deaf or hearing, it doesn't matter. You're learning to bridge communities. And we have several free areas of the app now, but there's pay areas later that'll be just, we can talk about that later.
Wonderful. I'm going to show real quick how you can get that app. There you go. Jason, could you give me an example of what an SSP is and using tactile communication?
Yes. So an SSP is a support service provider. Really, that term is pretty outdated. We're using the word co-navigator now. So again, it's the perspective is this, it's the same kind of role, but it's someone there to help you through your day, help you through navigate things just like that. Getting around your house, taking you to an appointment, helping you make an appointment if you need it. And so really their job is to provide environmental information to us. They're not an interpreter. They may book an appointment or help you book an interview, but they're not there to interpret for you. And even for someone who would be an SSP and drive me to an appointment and then become that, I don't like that. I like the separation there. It just helps keep roles clarified and keeps everyone professional. There may be also a co-facilitator. And what they do is help, let's say if I'm on a virtual meeting and I'm having a hard time navigating the screen, they may help me get into the meeting. They may navigate that for me or help me set up different settings so I can see easier. So that's what a co-facilitator would do. You mentioned wanting me to talk about total and tactile and pro-tactile information, right?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I can touch on that. So there's tactile and pro-tactile. Tactile is more about the consumer is resting their hands on you and getting the information that way as you're signing. Pro-tactile, there's a lot more give and take. There's a lot more feedback when communication is happening. Let's say someone's eyebrows are going up and down. That information is coming through in a pro-tactile situation. That really helps us to feel included in a conversation. For example, if there's irony or someone's being silly or they're having a smirk on their face, that expression can be included in something that's pro-tactile. That gives me, and it's given to me through feedback, physical touch or a pat or a tap.
Yes, I know sometimes when I have an interpreter as well, and people in the surrounding area are laughing, and we sometimes don't know that.
Yes, just like that. Yes.
Yes, that happens as well. And it's important to have that information that people around you are laughing so you can laugh along with them. When talking about the tactile and pro-tactile, there's also another communication called haptics, correct?
Yes. So pro-tactile can be on your arm. It can even be on your back. It may even be on your leg. It just depends on the position the person is in. If they're presenting or if they're, however they're getting the information. So if I'm presenting, the person is going to be on my back giving me information. If I'm chatting, maybe they're with that person, maybe we're face to face and they're going to touch my leg then and give me the feedback that way. It really comes down to ergonomics. You don't want to be slouched over. That's going to be harder to communicate. especially when you're interpreting with a deaf blind person, it's important to watch your body structure and how you're holding yourself so that it doesn't become burdened or you don't become tired easily. Setting up that foundation is a good thing and helps the communication flow better.
You want to make sure that you're comfortable, but also having communication access.
Yes. One problem that happens, sometimes it's about personal space. And so interpreters that I've experienced, sometimes that becomes an issue. And it's not about you, it's about getting access to the communication that I need. How do I get that? I need to have someone close by to get that information correctly.
I'm sure it's not only frustrating for yourself, but it could be for other clients as well.
Right, right.
As you know, some interpreters don't really like to be touched, and especially now in the time of COVID. Do you have interpreters who are staying that 6 feet away? How are they handling those situations?
Oh, so again, I'm taking information in visually, but again, as someone having farther apart, that may be an issue. Again, here in Maryland, a lot of the interpreters are already vaccinated, so that's not been an issue. It's been fine. It's been cool. We're cool with it. But someone who needs to change their gloves or get up and wash their hands, that can be quite cumbersome and impede the communication process. And again, you have to be aggressive in what you want and how you want communication to happen. If I need you to be close, I need you to be close. It's a matter of what I need to be successful in understanding what's going on.
I've experienced that when I've gone to hospitals too, where you have no live interpreter. And so you have to have a VRI interpreter. I can understand those
Yes.
frustrations.
Yeah.
It seems that you're pretty aware of what your rights are as a deaf blind person, as you were just talking about going to the doctor and things like that. Now that you've set up your own business, when you're working with other businesses and you're talking about providing accommodations and rights for your clients, what are some of the challenges that you discuss or face?
Well, really, I learned this even way back when I was a college student. You have the deaf community and you have the deaf blind community, and we don't necessarily get along in that respect. So there's deaf culture, and there's all that goes along with the deaf being a part of the deaf community, and then there's a deaf blind community, and it's relatively new, but again, having these two separate communities, we're not together. So there's again these two camps, and then sometimes there's another group, deaf and blind, and then there's us, deaf blind, and so we don't necessarily fit in that area. And so again, even getting attention in a deaf environment, a deaf friendly environment, lights going on, different cues, that's something that I can't access. So again, I'm more comfortable in another setting or getting information in a different way. Again, a co-navigator, support service provider will try to get that information, but oftentimes they themselves become involved in a conversation. Then I start losing out on what I'm there for, to be a part of the conversation. And then I end up becoming excluded in that way. So with my business, I'm collaborating with other deaf businesses and trying to see how we can build access and build what we need to. And again, the businesses may be more speech focused, maybe more hearing focused, or the information is that way. How do we make it more accessible for all? One thing that I have noticed is really you got to be, roll up your sleeves and just look for the information and get out there and try to grasp what you need and be proactive in what you need to do. Ask how to get the information. And even for me, I applied for the grants. I got grants to get the businesses going. Other companies can do this, but where are the deaf-blind business owners? It's all those who can hear. So again, giving us opportunities, giving us the working through grant writing and grant applications, it can be quite daunting, but we can do it.
Wow, I didn't realize that when you're talking about the differences in the deaf and deaf-blind communities, and how then you also have your blind community and the separation between the three, how you can feel left out of a community or felt left in the dark. I have noticed that there's more awareness, especially on social media. You see sometimes awareness being brought up about different groups and explaining, and you can learn a lot from those posts and social media shares. But I really feel that we need to start showing more compassion. We need to make sure that we're working together and figuring out how we can help each other.
One example with TikTok. Yeah, TikTok. That app, it's the worst for accessibility. For a deaf blind person, there's no audio descriptions. It's just video after video. And I remember even with a recent movie that came out, how was it? I think it was on Daily Moth. I think Feeling Through. It's about a deaf blind character. And I remember the students I was teaching at the time, they were pretty upset. They disagreed with the philosophy of the movie. And I was asking them why. And they were saying that that movie was showing the deafblind person in a negative way. And I was curious, again, just as the younger generation, what they see. And it was very interesting. We think of the word ally and wanting to make sure everyone's included. You see it on shows, you see it all over the place, that word ally. But do we really know what it is? And just like in the movie, sometimes we miss things, we're not catching those things, and someone with eyes helping us along helps us to gather that information.
I think that word ally is a key term.
Yes. I do want to add that ally, again, people sometimes confuse the meaning of an ally. An ally is really someone who should speak up, someone who is not afraid to, it doesn't matter where they're from, they're rich or poor or wherever they're from. To be an ally is someone who is not afraid to approach something, approach a way to change. If there's someone who's struggling with something, someone who's not afraid to interrupt or support that person in trying to, and they're not going to take over either.
For me, when I look at the word ally, I think of the word support, but an ally is not somebody who's ahead of me or beside me, but it's somebody who's behind me.
Yes.
When I really think about that, they're there for me and explaining things, and they're there to debunk what other people are thinking. They're there to explain and give and make sure that the right information is there. So they're truly somebody who's back there supporting you.
Yep, they're all behind you. Yep.
Again, talking about that word awareness that we talked about earlier. When I speak with some people who are deafblind, you think about people who know etiquette of the deaf world, the hearing world. What are some things that are common mistakes or common etiquette mistakes that are made in the deaf-blind world that you have experienced? Could you give us some of those examples?
course, many people forget to identify themselves. And like when I'm trying to figure out who this person is, I'm like, well, who is that? Where it can be a real challenge. Like when I'm meeting you, Scott, I have a vision of what you would look like in my head. And so as soon as you say I'm Scott, then I have that person's what I'm seeing as their personality in my head. But if I don't know that, it's hard to grasp that while I'm talking with someone. Again, if I'm introducing myself, I say, hi, I'm Jason. And then I'm just going to start describing myself. And sometimes, even in America here, we think people look the same. Like everyone from Taiwan looks like everyone from Taiwan. Everyone Asian looks Asian. That's not the case. That's not the case even here. But again, anything that can help identify you as you, anything that can help us understand something that maybe be unique to you. Maybe something you're wearing, maybe your hair color. Anything that you can do, is any details that you could include will help us create and help us understand who you are. Another thing is if you're leaving, make sure you let us know where you're going or what's happening. Just like in deaf culture, you tell someone, oh, I'm going to the bathroom. Then we know where you're going. Make sure you're specific so that if something does happen and I need to look for you, I know where to begin looking. That's really being an ally. You're giving us information, you're telling us where you're going, what's happening. Are you going upstairs? Are you going downstairs? Are you going in this room or that room? It's really a give and take. And that's really important in communication.
That's like if I'm sitting with somebody with Usher syndrome. I may be sitting across from them, but it's important to know where I need to sit, how I need to sign so that they can see my signs clearly, make sure I'm using the right signing space, letting them know that it's their turn, giving them information. If somebody else is saying something, copy signing what they're saying or letting them know that this person is saying that. And if that person's going too quickly, ask them to wait so that the person who has Usher syndrome can catch up. So really being that, as you were mentioning, co-facilitator, but really everybody has equality in the communication then.
One of the best approaches when going into a room is having everyone sit in a circle and then take turns identifying yourself. And then that way we can set up in our minds where everyone is sitting. And then looking at where someone needs to be for signing space or how they're moving, or if they need to maybe have your hands. And if you are using hand over hand like that, making sure you're anchoring yourself, not going all over the place. And if you are copy signing someone, making sure you're identifying this person is talking, this person is adding information, or maybe this person over there is talking. Maybe I would want to look over there and see where that person is or gesture towards that person. It helps me know my space and know where someone is during that communication. Again, also environmental factors may affect how much I can or cannot see, like how much light's coming in a window, if it's shady. That'll affect what I can or cannot see. And so that's something very important. Even in a meeting or something, having a background, appropriate background, so that I can see easier.
Visual accessibility is so important. I agree with you. It's the same for deaf people. We want to make sure that we're having clear communication access to what's being heard. So we want to make sure that we have that visualness and that it's comfortable to see. So those are some great tips. Thank you for sharing those, and we'll keep those in the back of our minds.
Yeah, some people, again, aren't too concerned about what an interpreter is wearing, or they're saying, oh, it's so boring. Again, being cognizant of the choices we're making, I want to make sure that I can see you. It doesn't need to be super bright, then it doesn't work either. But it needs to be contrastive. I don't want a headache when I'm trying to watch someone sign. And so It doesn't matter again if there's dark skin, but it just needs to be something so that I can see. So a contrastive color. So again, being cognizant of you're not going to wear, please don't wear stripes or flowers or things like that. Really, you may think, oh, well, they're wearing boring colors, but really it's about communication and ease of access that way.
It's important to remember that we're all human and we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable. Again, when you're in a communication with somebody, you don't want other people to have difficulty trying to communicate. There's one staff member that I can think of at my employment, and they sometimes have difficulties with stripes on the screen or even in
Yes.
person.
Yep. Gets
And
very,
they just can't handle that. They ask us not to wear stripes because, right,
yeah.
yes, they jump up and down and it's very difficult to see. So there are some shirts that I have those stripes and I make sure not to wear those anymore. And it's just one way that I can show compassion.
And it's respectful too.
Now, as the owner of 3MC, what are some of the benefits that you've had of being a business owner?
So again, setting up a business on my own, I've learned so much. I can be an instructor as a consultant. I work with hearing people. I've learned so much. And again, working as your own business owner, you're navigating all of those things, working with hearing people and navigating wages and all of those things. I want to involve the deaf community and involve the community as a whole into what they need to be successful, to include the deaf blind community. And so what again, it's not about just our little community, our deaf blind community. We think, oh, it's just this little community. It's a big community. We're part of the greater world. Again, they think, oh, it's just us, just the deaf blind community. That's all that's for. No, this business is to help everybody. The app that we've got, it's given us so much data on what we need to do and further our cause and how we can work better together with schools and other businesses and providing communication access and to break down barriers.
Yes, that's great. Wow. Wow. It's good to know that everybody has a capacity and capability. People always want to make decisions for us without thinking of the impact or having input from those who are being impacted. So if you don't have the input from that community, then of course you're going to have difficulties come up in the long run and people are going to complain. And then you're going to have to go back and fix things. So it's good to make sure that all parties involved are at the table in the beginning.
Right. For example, if you're trying to build a hotel, for instance, and you have all the blueprints, you have everything, you start the building, you're going along, you finish it up, but then you don't add elevators. Without that, you can't have an accessible building. You got to start from scratch. You got to take the whole thing down and start over again. You've wasted all the time and money. If you had that perspective first, that input first on what's needed to be an accessible environment, then you would have had a great hotel. People always, ask me about what accessibility I need or anything like that. And for example, so in my house on the front door, there's some stairs. And so when I think about access, I think about what I want to see or what should be an accessible environment. If there's only stairs, then how is that accessible? People are thinking, oh, it looks bad. You have a ramp, but it's in the back. That's for you guys in the back. They think, oh, if I have a ramp in the front, it's going to mess up the decorations and the aesthetic of the house. That's not the case. If you have an accessible environment, it can be included. And yeah, I can still get in the house from going in the back, but that's not the same. I'm treated differently from the get-go. So you think of other businesses that are already out there, your big box stores, your Walmarts, your Costco's, they have that from the ground up. They're built with the intention to be inclusive for all. The doors open, they're all on one floor, they're all accessible. So that's really what I'm getting at. To be have an equal playing field, have a level playing field for everyone to be able to access their environment in a way that works for them. So that there is no difference. There's just access.
A one fit for all thought. But you have to think about all of those things ahead of time. You can't just say, well, we're going to do this for you and do that for this other person. You have to include all the options for everyone. You have a good aspect in describing that when you're talking about
What was that again?
aspect,
Okay.
a good description of what the difference can be as far as accommodations and making sure that accommodations are had for all. You really helped everybody get the clear picture on that.
Some people have asked me about my experiences with discrimination. Again, I'm a part of, I'm not sighted. I'm also a gay person. So, of course, I've experienced those realms of discrimination amongst my own family and in my own life. So, would I say that I'm accepted in all of those communities? Not necessarily. I mean, I've experienced that discrimination, and really it's come down to how much those areas of my life are they willing to accommodate me. Are they willing to provide an interpreter? Can I go to an event and get access? Are they saying, oh, it's too expensive? And so again, that limits how much of a community in those areas that I can be a part of. I would just want to experience life just like everyone else. But if I can just get those barriers out of the way, I know that I can be just like anyone else. Just need to get the information in a different way. I just want the ability to, even when I set up my business, just level the playing field for everyone.
It would be wonderful to alleviate the discrimination by educating others and letting them know. And I think part of that is being a self advocate. And that's one way to teach others. We can't just sit around and say, well, I have to have this or that. I think we have to educate people on what we need.
Yeah, that's where some people get confused with advocacy. They think it's just all about the rights that they have and that's what they need and they need it now and that's it. It's important to approach it in a appropriate manner, in a way that is not shown in a negative light or only this my way or the highway. It's important to have that discussion and to show that this is why I need what I need. And really to get it through their their thick skull, just how what I need to be successful, and so approaching it in a better way instead of just demanding it.
Yes, even when we're dealing with people who are in healthcare or the police or government, some of them need to be trained on the ADA, some of them, and not a complete in depth, but some of them, when they learn about what the ADA is, they're in complete shock. They've forgotten what it's all about. So, again, educating, letting them know, giving them the name of interpreting agencies, explaining how to use an interpreter, really empowering those groups. And I think that's going to lead to better service for others as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm. It's important to educate others. Yep. Okay. My last question for you is, what is your favorite word that helped you with your personal growth and who you are today? What is your favorite word?
My favorite word would be self-confidence. Being right. And there's different ways to sign for self-confidence, which I really like. It's not about just sitting by and letting things happen to you, waiting for things to happen. It's getting up, taking the initiative, doing that. And once you do that, things will come easier, but there'll still be challenges. People are like, wow, you did 2 master's degrees. That must have been really hard. Or maybe you couldn't, they tell me I couldn't do it. Yeah. How I do it, and you just get up and you face those challenges. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it was a pain. Yeah, it was, but it was a challenge. But sometimes we make it harder on ourselves. It took a lot of brain power. It took a lot of thinking through, how am I going to do these things? How am I going to get through those challenges? But it's not about just sitting back. It's not, once you have those things, you have your confidence and you have a goal set in mind, you should do it. You shouldn't give up on that. It's important to push those things aside and just go for it. Have the confidence, be brave, give it a try. Challenge yourself. That's the only way to become successful.
Yes, self-confidence, I think, is one of the most important aspects to have in a personality. I think it's an important ingredient of life in order to become successful. You can't just stand around and let the world happen around you. You have to be a part of the world. And that's one way that you become successful. Of course, you're going to make mistakes along the way, but what you learn from your mistakes makes you stronger.
People always ask me, what if mistakes do happen? If you don't want to waste something that will happen, or wasted decision, then at that point, I always say, if you can't make the big decision, make a little decision, try it. If something goes wrong, you can fix it. Make the little decisions, keep going, keep moving forward. And then that's not a waste. You're still learning.
Yes. And when you have your husband and your friends and your family all supporting you, that even gives you a stronger self-confidence.
Yes, when you have everyone behind you. Yeah, but you're not alone. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for explaining those things, especially about self-confidence. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we close our session today?
I do want to mention service animals. It's a hot topic right now because of the huge variety of what service animals people see. Sometimes they have emotional support animals. Some people, they want to bring their pets with them as they travel, and they get a form online, and then they pay, whatever, $150, and now they've got their emotional support animal and they want to take them everywhere with them. But they're not professionally trained. They bark, they jump, they poop on the floor, they bite. And, flights, hotels, apartments, they're coming up against this. And that's really given us who have service animals kind of a bad rap. When the animals are not well behaved and people are trying to get preferential seating, or enter the plane first, or an apartment or something like that, it just doesn't work. And those organizations are fed up with that. And for us, again, it's added paperwork. If I want to do anything like that, or any kind of traveling, it's just a frustrating experience. And it's in the news now, and people want to have their friend, their pet with them at all times. And I understand some of that support, but then when things change and the Department of Transportation and those things don't want any kind of support service animals, then people get in a big tizzy over it.
Yeah, I know. I had gone one time to the deaf picnic, and the group that was hosting it said no pets allowed. But it happened that somebody brought their animal and they had a certificate with them. And they said, well, here, it's my service animal, but it wasn't a professionally trained animal, kind of like what you were talking about. And it just was one of those, I'm going to scratch my head moments at this. It's really difficult to say something to somebody when they have a piece of paper that looks official. And I think it really is just situational. Do we say, well, I need to see that paperwork, or do we just let it go and be respectful? Just like you were mentioning, I can see the problems with that.
Yes, it makes it harder for us to enjoy life. The ADA has two accommodations. We can request accommodation services, and they can help us with what we need for daily functions. And we have to declare that to the ADA. And of course, there's paperwork that's all needed. And once that's done, and so we have to do that ourselves. But with this situation, it just creates this huge controversial situation. And service animals can be a really good thing for us. But if it's going to cause more problems, then that's half the battle there.
I'm sure that's something that the deafblind community is working on to make it a more accurate and precise description of what a service animal is for.
Yeah. So for now, it's added paperwork, it's added forms for us to get what we need to travel. And so that's something that I've experienced.
It's good that we can recognize that, though. And I think in the long run, it'll make it better for others. I didn't realize that had become such a hot topic with service animals.
Yeah.
But now that you mentioned it, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. If someone does something, they're not thinking about what it might do and how it might affect other people. And so you don't want to, someone who has a different vest, or they order a fake vest, now that's really going to mess us up for animals that do have it.
Right, right.
I do have one more thing that I would like to talk about before we end. So I think of different age groups of people from in their school age, elementary, middle school, high school. Often kids experience bullying or being picked on. And then when they get into college, those that were doing that realize, oh, that was wrong back then. And they realize it. But it's already too late. It already happened in the past. So the earlier we can get to that, I mean, I want people to be, I don't want people to feel sorry for themselves, but I also want people to change. And so as people get older, they mature and they realize the error of their ways. But I see that's happening earlier, and that's a good thing. But just building advocacy and awareness earlier in school, really educating people about special needs and what we have to do to just fight for what we need to have access to education and anything else that we need in life. And so the earlier that happens, the better allies we'll have all around, the better experiences that will be, no matter what our disability is, if we're blind, deaf, or whatever we're using. That will only help us in the future.
Something that you were talking about was middle school and high school and the picking on and bullying that they might experience and how they can sometimes be shut out. That's one of the reasons that we're here in the first place is we want to make the world better. So how can we do that?
It's so important to work with the staff in understanding a situation from all sides, not leaning towards the deaf side, not leaning towards the deaf blind side. You don't know what the person has been going through before that situation has come up. They may be depressed, they may be suicidal. it's important to not take one situation less serious than another or minimize one situation over another. You don't want to play favorites. You don't want to show preferences. You want to make sure that you're looking at all sides of a situation and taking the time to think through what caused this.
I think that's a great point about suicidal thoughts. It's something we don't like to think about, but unfortunately, it's the world that we live in. Thinking about people wanting to kill themselves and how can we support them and guide them in a better way.
Yep, treating people the same, looking at how people perceive themselves and not being in, just a small group and everyone else is outside of that. Supporting each other is a key to that.
I think it's a best practice for all schools who have deafblind students that they provide training and let them know how they can serve those students best. And educating the students as well about how to take turns and how to communicate. It's the best place to not only teach the other students, but empower the students to become allies.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing your viewpoint on this and how we can make this better, especially for our teachers and our students in the schools. Well, Jason, thank you so very much for your time today and talking with us. I really learned a lot. I'm hoping that we can create more allies and having those people who are there to support people who are deaf, deafblind, and people of different abilities. In general, the community, I think we need more allies in general. Thank you.
Yes. You're all welcome to join our app and to learn something and help our community grow.
Once we're done with this video, I'll make sure that we get it to you so you can put it on your app if you'd like.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Jason. Have a great day.
Enjoy your summer.
Bye-bye.